everyone, a very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to today's session. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fine and amazingly well. I hope you had a wonderful दशहरा and enjoyed the holiday thoroughly. बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका आज के सेशन में जहाँ पे we are going to get started and in fact finish the topic of the Mughals administration and how they functioned. So under this, guys, we are going to understand everything like who were the Mansabdars, what was the Mansabdari system, everything, okay? But what exactly we are going to do? In a while, I'll tell you. But before that, let me quickly introduce myself. Hi, बच्चों, बहुत स्वागत है आपका. सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, bonjour, आदाब. I am Ankana, your expert for social sciences at Embibe. As you can see, I have been associated with the education sector for more than 9 years now. We have had the wonderful opportunity of interacting and teaching students of both CBSE and ICSE students offline and online. So let's get started with today's session. As I was telling you, we are going to do the chapter of the Mughals from 16th century to 17th century. This chapter has been roughly divided in these topics of introduction to the Mughals, major Mughal military campaigns, which means what were the fights that they had, which were the areas that they captured, how did they spread. So how did the army progress, hence marking the control and territory of Mughals Empire, okay? Then Mansabdars and Jagirdars in the Mughal Empire, Zabt and Zamindars, and the Mughal Empire after 17th century. During the 17th century, the decline of it and what happened after once the Britishers were here. So these two topics were done in the previous session, which is the introduction to the Mughals and major Mughal military campaign, which was on Monday. Today we are going to do Mansabdar, Jagirdar, Zabt, Zamindar and the decline of during the 17th and after the 17th century. So let's quickly have a recap of what we have done in the previous session. So guys, in the previous session we spoke about that the Mughals were descendants of true great lineage rulers, okay? From the maternal side, they came from a different big, emperor kind of family, and the same was from the paternal side also. यानी कि मम्मी के साइड से भी और पापा के साइड से भी बहुत बड़े lineages से, बहुत बड़े rulers के खानदान से आते थे ये. From the mother side, they were the descendants of the Mughal emperor and conqueror Genghis Khan, and from their father side, they were the descendants of Timur, who in fact had ruled Delhi back in the 14th century. Babur was the first Mughal emperor who captured Delhi in 1526 by defeating Ibrahim Lodi in the Battle of Panipat. The Mughals did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, which means where the only eldest son gets to carry over the throne and the empire and the name of the family. What they believed in was basically dividing the power amongst all of the sons equally, so that it could have a stronger, lineage, and the way the empire would be handled would be in a better way. The brothers wouldn't fight for power amongst themselves. Plus, a lot of times it's not necessary that the eldest son would be the correct and the absolute right fit and would have all that it takes to be a king. So when all the brothers who are actually, when they're not fighting, when they're working together to take care of the family and to take care of the empire. Hi Kanakshri, welcome to the session. Please do write it down in the chat. I will definitely try to solve it. So, बच्चे basically what they used to take care of कि जब सारे भाई जो हैं when they are not fighting, it obviously marks a certain strength. Plus, if one brother lacks in something, the other brother can fill it up, and the empire will not just collapse by being dependent on one sole ruler. So they followed the custom, which was dividing the inheritance equally amongst all the sons, and this was known as the copacenary inheritance system. Okay, Kanakshri. Now guys, what are the topics that we are going to, the particular concepts that we are going to cover today? We are going to talk about the administration of Mughals, Mansabdari system in detail, what were the military responsibilities of the Mansabdars, then what was the Zat ranking, Jagirdari system, the Zamindari system, Zabt revenue system, how did they collect taxes, role of the Zamindars, Akbarnama and N.A. Akbari, Noor Jahan's influence in Jahangir's court, Sul-e-Kul and the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after. So we are going to have quite an informative and intense session. So let's get started. Now, did you know that Raja Todarmal served as a finance minister? So it's probably difficult for us to imagine a Rajput ruler becoming a finance minister of the Mughal Empire, and that to happen during Akbar's rule. Akbar has been a mighty ruler. As the finance minister, he was in charge of the entire revenue system, which means how did the finance and the economy system will work. He would look after the entire system and design it. So he had laid the structure which we are also going to discuss. Okay. Hi Govind, welcome. I'm absolutely fine. How are you? The Mughals were highly dependent on this revenue to pay for the army, the welfare of their subjects, and for constructing forts and other useful buildings. So how did the Mughals collect this revenue? Let's find out. Now I want to set a context of why do we need to understand this, okay? But even in today's date, you would have heard people paying taxes. Your parents who are earning, who are basically doing certain kind of job, they also pay tax to the government. What do you mean by tax? Tax is basically the money that you pay to your nation and to your government. It doesn't matter whether it is a monarchy, a dictatorship, or democracy, any form of government, it doesn't matter. Okay, the citizens are supposed to pay a certain amount of money to the government as a homage. In terms of, आप basically क्या है कि when you're staying in a nation, when you're staying in a particular place, you're utilizing different services provided to you by the government. Whether you like the government or not, whether it is monarchy or dictatorship, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि तानाशाही है, कि monarchy है, राजा वाला system है, कि democracy है, लोकतंत्र है. हम जब किसी भी देश में रह रहे हैं, किसी भी सरकार के पास रह रहे हैं, तो हम उनकी services use करते हैं. Roads, government offices, ठीक है, schools, hospitals, बहुत कुछ which is basically provided by the government. Now, where will the government get the money to build all of this? It's not like the government is going and working. सरकार कहीं जाकर काम तो नहीं कर रही है कि उनके पास सैलरी आएगी, उस सैलरी को इस्तेमाल करके वो ये सारी चीजें करेंगे. So, when as a citizen you're utilizing these services, you're supposed to pay a certain compulsory amount to the government for helping them, supporting them to provide these services for the welfare of the citizens, including yourself. तो जब हम किसी देश में रह रहे हैं तो हम एक कंपलसरी अमाउंट सरकार को देते हैं जो उनका हक है हमसे लेना, चाहे किसी भी तरह की सरकार हो. उसी पैसे को हम टैक्स कहते हैं. ये हम देते हैं सरकार को कि भैया ये लो पैसे, हमारे वेलफेयर के लिए, बाकी लोगों के वेलफेयर के लिए इन पैसों से काम करो, डेवलपमेंट करो, बिल्डिंग्स बनाओ. एंड सिमिलरली द सिस्टम हैज एग्जिस्टेड नॉट जस्ट इन टुडेज डेट बट long back. Guys, I'll just take a quick pause because there's some issue. Give me a few seconds, I'll be back. So that money is known as tax. Similarly, even the kings used to have a certain revenue system. Revenue is tax system to collect the money from their citizens so that with this money they could have basically ran the government. जैसे कि हमने introduction में भी देखा, as we saw in the introduction as well, to build the buildings, to create different things, to pay the army officials. There are a lot of government officials. Where are they getting the salary from? How is the government paying for it? Government कैसे pay कर रही है? जो tax ले रही है वैसे pay कर रही है. Similarly, the Mughals also used to do it. But the system that they had designed, because their empire was vast and huge, क्योंकि उनका empire जो है बहुत बड़ा था, उन्होंने जो system बनाया था, that is commendable. बहुत ही अच्छा system था. The system was really tight and very, very well sorted. So that is why we are reading about it. इसलिए हम इसके बारे में पढ़ रहे हैं, जान रहे हैं, discuss कर रहे हैं. So let's get started and understand how did the whole administration, पूरी की पूरी administration कैसे चलती थी of the Mughals. So they expanded to include various regions. हमें पता है in the previous session we saw that how did they keep on expanding, कैसे वो धीरे धीरे grow करते रह गए, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एरिया को अपने अंडर कवर करते रह गए, ठीक है, leading to the recruitment of a diverse range of people. Now when you're expanding, you guys, when an empire, any empire, कोई भी empire जब expand करता है, बढ़ता है, so they need multiple people to take care and manage different portfolios, right? Because again, the king alone cannot control the entire empire. राजा अकेले एक जगह पे बैठ करके कैसे पूरे empire की रक्षा करेगा, ध्यान रखेगा? So he will have to have delegates, right? He will have to have people to pass on the information, pass on the responsibility to. कि भैया you will be the mediator, you take care of this place, you take care of taxation, you take care of management, you take care of administration. ऐसे करके जो responsibilities है divide होती हैं और ये सारे लोग राजा को report करते हैं और उनके बदले manage करते हैं. Similarly, how we have it today in today's government as well. So Mughals had small nucleus of Turkish nobles known as the Turanis. So they had a group of people, nucleus as in like a group of people, ठीक है, who were Turkish nobles. They basically were from Turkey, from the noble families, and they kept on working as servicemen, as management people, जो सारी चीजों को ध्यान रखते थे. इनको तुरानी के नाम से जाना जाता था. But over a period of time, Mughals extended their recruitment to also include other people because they were just a small number of people, right? And they were not going to be enough as the Mughal Empire kept on expanding. जब शुरू में वो आए तो छोटी सी empire थी, थोड़ा सा जगह था, तो it was easy for them to manage. But as they kept on expanding, they needed more and more people, more hands on the deck to take care of things. So over the time, they started recruiting Iranis, Indian Muslims, Afghans, Rajputs, Marathas, and other ethnic and regional groups. See, there was another intent with including the Indian Muslims, Rajputs, Marathas. The thing was that they were controlling Indian territories, right? Indian territories को जब वो control कर रहे हैं, so they are basically taking it over from the Marathas, from the Rajputs, from other Indian rulers, from the descendants of the Delhi Sultanates, all of these people. Now, in order, when you give a certain responsibility to these people, you're including them, you're making an inclusive environment. जब आप इन लोगों को include करते हो, उनको एक responsibility देते हो, तो the hard and the sour feeling that they may have in their hearts because of being conquered and annexed by the Mughals will somehow get pacified. अगर आपने किसी के हक को, किसी के एरिया को कब्जा कर लिया है, बट आपने कहा कि ठीक है यार, मैं इसको कंट्रोल नहीं करूंगा या करूंगी, मैं तुम्हें कुछ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दे रही हूँ, ये बिलोंग मुझे ही करेगा, आप तुम्हें बिलोंग नहीं करेगा, बट ऑन माई बिहाफ यू टेक केयर ऑफ दीज थिंग्स. ठीक है, आप इसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले लो. So when you involve these people, they will feel, okay, fine, I have some responsibility on my head. Now I'm a part of this clan, I'm a part of this group. So I should not completely go against them. I'm involved. और मुझे जो है humiliated and insulted feel नहीं होगा. So that was the other intent of involving more diverse groups of people, right? Hi Ritika, good afternoon. A very, very warm welcome to the session. These people who joined Mughal services enrolled as mansabdars. So the new people who are now taking care of these roles and responsibilities, how are they addressed as? These are the people who are addressed as the mansabdars, which indicated their rank or position in the imperial administration. तो ये जो पूरी administration थी of the Mughal Empire, उसमें उनके role को, उनके rank को ये दिखाती थी, बताती थी, so that everyone would also know, oh, they are the mansabdars, we have to respect them, they have a certain responsibility, they hold a certain position in the empire. A mansabdar, who is a mansabdar? Because we are saying that these people were known as mansabdars, but who were they exactly? क्या कोई भी जो किसी भी रोल में, किसी भी पोजीशन में ज्वाइन कर रहा है उसे मनसबदार बोलेंगे? नहीं. It was clearly defined. The member, the individual holding a mansab is basically a particular area, right? Denoting a position or a rank in the Mughal administration. So, the mansabdari system was a grading system used to determine the rank, salary and military responsibility of the officials. ठीक है, तो अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? एक प्रॉपर सिस्टम डिजाइन कर दिया गया है एंड बेस्ड ऑन द रैंक्स, जो भी आपके रैंक्स है उसके बेसिस पे अब जो है आप ये समझ पाओगे, जस्ट बाय द टाइटल एंड बाय द रैंक यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट व्हाट वाज द पोजीशन दैट द पर्सन हैड, हाउ मच मनी वुड दे बी अर्निंग. अब आपको लग रहा होगा कि यार ये मनी से क्या फर्क पड़ता है, बट बच्चे मनी हेल्प्स टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड डिटरमाइन द इकोनॉमिकल पोजिशनिंग ऑफ अ पर्सन. Even in today's date, when you get to know somebody is earning well, you naturally respect them more or see them with a different pair of lenses, right? They command more respect in the society. ठीक है, तो मनसब क्या हो गया? मनसब इज बेसिकली द रैंक और द पोजिशन, ठीक है। मनसब किस चीज को रेफर कर रहा है? तो मनसबदारी जो है, मनसब, सो व्हेन वी आर सेइंग अ मनसबदार, इंडिविजुअल हु होल्ड्स अ मनसब, मनसब बेसिकली मीन्स द रैंक और द पोजिशन. So maybe somebody is controlling a district, somebody is helping them administer the district. So there were different kinds of roles. This whole system where people are holding certain ranks is known as Mansabdari system, which is ranking system. It is helping you understand the position, it is helping you understand the money they earn and the role and the responsibility they have. क्या जिम्मेदारियां उनको दी गई हैं, what will they do in the structure. The system used a numerical value called Zat to establish both rank and salary. So this is what was helping us to understand what was the rank and the salary of these individuals. The higher your position, the higher the Zat is, the more prestigious the noble's position in Mughal court, and the higher would be their salary. So it's like in a company how we say ki, okay, there are certain chief officers, then there are directors, there are vice presidents, there are assistant vice presidents. So there are multiple positions, there are managers, there are assistant managers, then there are associates, there are people at executive level. So even in today's date, what we do, even in private companies or let's say government offices, you have certain positioning. The higher, police, IPS में क्या होता है? IPS में भी similarly होता है, ठीक है, जैसे कि आपका स्टेशन का भी कोई हेड होता है, उसके बाद उसके ऊपर आप जाओगे तो हमारे पास अलग अलग पोजीशंस होते हैं, हमने सुना हुआ है आईजी होते हैं, डीआईजी होते हैं, एसपी होते हैं, एसएसपी होते हैं, एएसपी, तो ऐसे करके there are multiple positions. What is this helping you understand? That in the administration of the police system, ठीक है, who is controlling what position, and we know that higher the position, higher the responsibility, higher the command and authority and higher the salary. तो ये ज़ात जो है वो रैंक बताता था और रैंक के साथ उनकी सैलरी भी बताता था. द हायर यू आर इन द पोजीशन, more command, more respect is required and more salary is being paid. Mansabdars had military responsibilities involving maintaining a designated number of cavalrymen or the savar, which means every mansabdar, every individual, ठीक है, उसके पास क्या है, they would have certain number of army men. Cavalrymen का मतलब क्या हो गया? The soldiers who would fight, the soldiers, the people who would protect the empire or who would be the army of the empire. हर एक मनसब को, every individual was given a certain number of men to look after, जिनको सावर के नाम से भी जाना जाता था. And the lower the rank, the lesser number of people are under you. For example, I at the very basic rank, suppose have 20 men reporting to me, 20 men who I am controlling. Similarly, on my position, there is somebody else who is controlling 20 men. Now, there would be somebody else who would be controlling the two leaders of these 20 men, me and the other person. So, now all of these 20 and the two of us, the 42 men will be under this next individual, the next Mansab. Okay. So, Mansabdars brought their cavalrymen for periodic reviews to ensure they met the required strength. So, a continuous test of strength and whether the people are fit for the role, for the fighting purposes or not was continuously done. एक assessment चलते रहती थी because it's not like you're fighting every day. So let's say 2 साल हो गए, 3 साल हो गए, no battle as such has happened. So there is a possibility that the people who have been recruited are no more fit. Somebody out of that is not absolutely fit now. They have grown a little older or have lost their spark of fighting or the strength. So you have to keep a check continuously to keep your army updated. तो हर कुछ दिन पे ये assessment होते रहती थी periodically. And at the review, the horses of these cavalrymen were registered and they were branded for identification. So cavalrymen कौन है बच्चे? The army, the soldier on the horses, and anyways back at that time most of the people would fight on the horses. Few would be on the foot. तो foot soldiers अलग होते थे, cavalry वाले अलग होते थे. So cavalry wale, they would come with their horses. The horses would also be branded, okay, this belongs to this person, this belongs to the army, this mansab. So entire, you can see that how documentation and registration is also being done. A proper process is being followed. When the review was successful, which means I have passed my assessment this time, I have passed my assessment next time. Whenever I would pass the assessment, whenever I would prove that yes, I'm still fit for the army, I'm still a good cavalry person, the Mansabdar received funds from the Mughal treasury to pay their cavalrymen's salaries, thereby ensuring a well-maintained military service. So, if you have passed the exam, if you have passed the assessment, if you have proven that yes, you're still a perfect fit, whoever has received that will get sidelined. The people who would fail would obviously be removed, given a different responsibility, no more a cavalry person. And then the leader, the Mansab, who was leading all these cavalrymen, based on the number of people who have passed the fitness test, will receive the salary that go ahead and pay your men. यानी कि पैसे, सैलरी भी प्रॉपरली पे की जा रही थी, सारा सिस्टम बढ़िया से चल रहा था, ठीक है. Ritika, once the session ends, you will be able to see the homework. It is assigned to you. There are a few questions. You should answer it. It will help you revise the portion, the concepts that I'm teaching you, and also help you with your answer writing practice for examination purposes, ठीक है. Now, that we know was the numerical rank, which would help you understand the rank, which would help you understand the salary of the person. Okay? So, that was a numerical ranking which was used in the Mughal Mansabdari system to identify the status and the position of the nobles. So, ये थोड़ा higher standard पे identify करता था. Nobles with highest zat, the higher the values they were more prominent. Okay? For example, those with a zat of 5,000 held a higher status than those with a zat of 1,000. यानी कि जितने आपके जट्स हैं, जितने आपके पॉइंट्स हैं, जितने आपका जट, जितना आपका रैंक, द नंबर, द हायर द पोजीशन, एंड सिंपल इज दैट. ठीक है, तो न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू है, राइट, इट्स अ नंबर वैल्यू. तो जैसे कि 1 2 3 4 की जगह 1000 2000, तो जितने पॉइंट्स की तरह यू कैन इमेजिन, द मोर नंबर ऑफ पॉइंट्स यू हैव, द हायर योर पोजीशन इज गोइंग टू बी, हायर योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इज गोइंग टू बी, हायर योर सैलरी इज गोइंग टू बी, हायर योर honor is going to be. During Akbar's reign, there were 29 mansabdars with the Zat ranking of 5,000, reflecting the elite status of these officials. So, these were guys kind of elites at that time, right? They were maybe not necessarily nobles, maybe वो royal family के ना हो, but they were like, you can imagine in today's date, the highest officials or the high position officials of army, air force, navy, these people were like that. So, how we see that the more stars and different kind of badges and honor badges that officials, the army or defense officials, I'll say army, navy, yeah, air force le lo, the more number of badges they have, we understand that the higher their position is, the higher contribution they have done. So, similarly, higher the points, higher the zat, higher the numerical value, higher would be their position, higher would be their status, higher would be their salary. ठीक है. औरंगजेब के टाइम पे the mansabdars with the Zat ranking of 5,000 had increased to 79. तो अकबर के टाइम पे जहां पे सिर्फ 29 mansabdars थे, they had become 79 during Aurangzeb, which shows us what? Which shows us that the size of the army had increased. There were more number of men to control and there were no more number of mansabs controlling them. ठीक है, चलिए, तो अब इसी बात पे ये क्वेश्चन आंसर कर देते हैं. What was not determined in the mansabdari system? मनसबदारी सिस्टम में क्या नहीं पता चलता था? रैंक नहीं पता चलता था, सैलरी नहीं पता चलती थी, रिलीजन नहीं पता चलता था, या मिलिट्री रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज नहीं पता चलती थी. Which of the following was not possible to determine based on the mansab, based on the zat? What could you not know about the person, the rank, the salary, the religion, or the military responsibilities? So, 3 out of the following was reflected and understood by the mansabdari system. One of these was not. Which is that one? And let's look at your answers. So, we have Agastya and Dia who have answered absolutely correct. Ritika, did you take an attempt? Did you take an attempt of the question? गोविंद ने भी कर लिया है, अगस्त्य ने भी कर लिया है. वंडरफुल, वंडरफुल. एंड द करेक्ट आंसर इज रितिका ने भी कर लिया है. अमेजिंग. रिलीजन, all of us have understood this, right? So we would understand the roles and responsibilities, we would understand their rank, we will understand their salary. Religion का पता नहीं होता था और उससे कोई मतलब भी नहीं था, है ना. Now जागीरदारी system, जागीरदारी आपने सुना होगा. You might have heard people saying, if you know Hindi or if you watch Hindi movies, ये तुम्हारी जागीरदारी थोड़ी है, which means जो मनमानी आए वो थोड़ी करोगे. Why was it said like that? So what did the exact जागीरदारी system mean? Let's understand that to understand the dialogues, right? So mansabdars were paid through revenue assignments called jagirs, similar to iktas. Mansabdars rarely lived in or managed their jagirs. They had the rights to the revenue which their servants collected while they worked elsewhere. So इसको फिर से पढ़ते हैं, समझते हैं. This might come out as a little confusing to you. However, this is very very easy to understand. काफी आसान है, बहुत simple system है. It's like a simple structure. You just have to make sense of it. So what we understand is that the zats were the numerical value, which were like points. You can say that was given. Higher the point, higher the position. There were certain mansabs. Mansab basically means the rank. And based on rank, people were given cavalrymen to manage. तो ये कुछ cavalrymen, ये mansabdari system के अंदर people used to manage, and there were different people with different points which would determine their ranks. And mansabdari system basically means a ranking system. Now we are talking about the jagirdari system. Jagirdari basically is kind of referring to the revenue system. ठीक है, यानी कि tax collection के बारे में हम अभी थोड़ा सा बात कर रहे हैं. Mansabdars were paid through revenue assignments, right? How were the Mansabdars getting their salary? How were they collecting the money? How were they collecting the money for the government altogether? They were doing it with the revenue system, which means they were collecting taxes. है ना, क्या कर रहे थे? Tax collect कर रहे थे from people, from citizens. Citizens से क्या कर रहे थे? Tax collect कर रहे थे. Called jagirs. So there were assignments given to them, which means everyone had a clear responsibility that you have to collect the tax of these areas, of these many citizens. आपको 10,000 लोगों से tax collect करना है, आपको 3 district से tax collect करना है. These assignments were known as jagir. ठीक है? So jagir in a way is the compulsory money which was supposed to be given to the government. It was government's right, and of course the mansabdar's right to collect that. इसलिए कहते हैं कि ये तुम्हारी जागीर नहीं है, which means it's not something that belongs to you and you can come and ask for it whenever you cannot show your right on it. But what are the mansabdars doing? They had the right to collect these monies from these assigned places as an assignment, which was known as jagir. ठीक है, similar to iktas. Mansabdars rarely lived in or managed their jagirs. ठीक है, which means they did not necessarily always stay in the places where it was supposed to be collected, or they not always went themselves to collect it. They would have an assistant, a servant, who on their behalf would go and do the collection while they would be managing their army or they would be staying somewhere else. तो मनसबदार्स के लिए कहीं ना कहीं हमें ये भी समझ आ रहा है कि इट वॉज नॉट अ वेरी ऑनरी थिंग to go and collect the money. They would send a representative. They somewhere felt a little above and beyond this. उनको लगता था कि इससे हम थोड़े ऊपर है यार, हमारा काम ये नहीं है कि जाकर के खुद से ही पैसे कलेक्ट करेंगे, हमारे बदले भी कोई जाकर ये लेकर आ सकता है, बट ये पैसा हमारा हक है. This money is our right which we are supposed to collect on behalf of the government and give it to them. ठीक है. During Akbar's reign, Jagirs were carefully assessed to ensure their revenue matched the salary of the Mansabdars. So Mansabdars are getting money from where? Where are they getting the salary from? These revenues is what will be taken and collected, and that will be the salary of the mansabdar. ठीक है, जो पैसे टैक्स के फॉर्म में आप लोगों से कलेक्ट कर रहे हो वही वो मनसबदार रखेगा और वही उनकी सैलरी होगी. So it is very important that the taxes are collected properly and in the correct amount, neither less nor more, because more would be corruption, less would be meaning that the mansabdar is not receiving the money that they deserve. So during the rule of Akbar, he was very very meticulous. He was very careful. बहुत ध्यान रखते थे कि सब सही से कैलकुलेशन हो रहा है कि नहीं, क्या सही से सही अमाउंट कलेक्ट हो रहा है, क्या सारे लोगों को सही से सैलरी मिल रही है. बिकॉज ओनली व्हेन द करेक्ट अमाउंट इज कलेक्टेड द सैलरी ऑफ द मनसबदार कुड बी पेड. बट ड्यूरिंग द औरंगजेब्स reign, this balance was a lot of times disrupted. It may not happen clearly. The calculation may not be done. So we can see a kind of contrast over here, the difference between the two rulers. A significant increase in the number of mansabdars led to the shortage of jagirs. Guys, the number of citizens did not really spread. ठीक है, बहुत ज़्यादा citizens तो बढ़े नहीं. Area जो है, चलो ठीक है, थोड़ा सा with the conquering and annexation, somewhat area increased. But when you're increasing your army to build a strong army, the amount of money that you have to pay them will increase. But the citizens, the revenue, the earning of the government somewhere remains constant. It is not matching the exponential growth in the army. आपने आर्मी बढ़ा ली है, लेकिन जो गवर्नमेंट की जो सैलरी है, जो आपके पास पैसे आ रहे हैं इस आर्मी को चलाने के लिए, वो बहुत नहीं बढ़ी है. तो हाउ एंड वेयर विल यू पे दीज पीपल फ्रॉम? And that is why this shortage or disruption or problem was created during Aurangzeb's rules, which is happening because number of mansabdars have increased, but the jagirs somewhat remained same or very less amount of increase had happened. तो जब पैसे उतने ही आ रहे हैं तो मनसबदार को पैसे कहाँ से मिलेंगे, नहीं मिलती थी, विच अल्टीमेटली रिजल्टेड इन लॉन्ग वेटिंग पीरियड्स फॉर अपॉइंटमेंट्स। ठीक है, तो उनको पैसे लेने के लिए, वो कलेक्शन करने के लिए, अपने पैसे सैलरी के लिए वेटिंग पीरियड वुड इंक्रीज। Now that is something that would also lead to some kind of incontentment, ठीक है, dissatisfaction in the hearts of the mansabs, because when you're working you would want to be paid, right? Only then your trust increases on your employer, and you're more honest and you're more loyal to the employer. So many jagirdars sought to maximize revenue during their tenure, which led to the exploitation of the peasantry. Now when you have to pay the mansabdars, ठीक है, mansabdars को आपको पे करना है, ठीक है, so the jagirdars, people who are collecting the revenue, they would want to collect as much as possible, but as I said, the number of people paying the taxes was not increasing as much as the number of mansabdars had increased. proportional नहीं था, population थोड़ी बढ़ी, ठीक है, collection थोड़ा बढ़ा, लेकिन जो लेने वाले पैसे थे वो बहुत बढ़ गए. So the mediator, the jagirdar who's collecting the revenues, who's creating the appointment, they thought maybe we should push people to pay more. ठीक है, ये ज़्यादा देंगे तो हम मनसबदार्स को पैसे दे पाएंगे. बट जब पॉपुलेशन ज़्यादा नहीं बढ़ी है, एंड मोस्टली इट्स द फार्मर्स, देयर अर्निंग हैज़ नॉट इंक्रीज, इट्स नॉट लाइक दे हैव स्टार्टेड अर्निंग अ लॉट ऑल ऑफ अ सडन, दे प्रीटी मच अर्निंग इन अ सिमिलर वे. वेयर विल दे गेट ऑल ऑफ दिस मनी फ्रॉम? अचानक से इतना ज़्यादा सारा पैसा कहाँ से लेकर के आएंगे? बट when the jagirdar will force, because of the system, when somebody official is forcing, you will have to pay extra from your pocket, which will make you poorer, which is like exploitation of the citizens. So it would lead to exploitation of the peasants, of the citizens, which the citizens will not be happy about now. फिर भी मनसब्स को सारे पैसे नहीं मिलेंगे तो मनसबदार्स भी खुश नहीं है. तो आप देख रहे हो औरंगजेब के रूलिंग में कहाँ कहाँ प्रॉब्लम आ रही है. Why would people not be very appreciative of Aurangzeb? Why would we not cite him as a perfect example of a ruler? Because of such issues. So Aurangzeb struggled to control these problems in the later part of his reign, causing significant suffering for the farmers who would not be satisfied by the rule that was happening, which we have clearly seen that during the reign of Akbar was not as big a problem. People were managing in a better way, ज़्यादा बेहतर तरीके से manage कर पा रहे थे, ऐसे issues नहीं आ रही थी. ठीक है, okay. Is there a question popping in on your screen? Because I can't see it here, I don't know why. Okay, no worries. We'll skip this quiz question and move on and talk about the zamindari system. What do you mean by zamindari system? The land holding system. Okay, who will manage the land? Who will be the land owner? Because peasants were there, and we know back at that time most of the people were actually working as a farmer. ज़्यादातर लोग क्या कर रहे थे? Farming activities, agricultural activities से associated थे. ठीक है? So Mughal rulers primarily generated income through taxing the agricultural produce of the peasantry. So now let's understand two things. One, what was the major occupation that people were doing? So major occupation, whoever was working was primarily associated with farming activities, right? उस टाइम पे इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन वगैरह ये सारी चीजें नहीं थी बच्चे. So major people were farming and related to farming activities. And wherever the tax collection happening from, it was happening from the working population. And who were these working population? ये working लोग कौन थे? This working population was in fact the farmers. ठीक है, तो आपको समझ आ रहा है, यानी कि farmers ही वो है जो ultimately tax दे रहे हैं. So what was the system designed? Mughal rulers किससे tax ले रहे थे? They would take the income tax from the agricultural produce of the peasantry, which means what was tax? How was it paid? It may not necessarily always be paid an amount of money. It could be that if I have grown 100 kgs of rice, as a tax I will pay 10 kgs to the government. ठीक है, अब मैंने सरकार को 10 kg चावल एक टैक्स के फॉर्म में दे दिया, 1/10 of whatever I want, or maybe 20 kgs, 15 kgs, whatever was the rate determined. Or if you're growing cotton, or if you're growing indigo, some vegetable, whatever it is, this is how the taxation system would work, and this is how the Mughal rulers used to take the taxes. In a lot of places, peasants paid their taxes through intermediaries, which could be the local headman or the chieftain. Which means sometimes the farmer is directly paying the tax to the ruler. Ruler को यानी कि government को, ठीक है, not the ruler per se, but sometimes they would have somebody here in the intermediate person who will collect it on behalf of the government, ठीक है, from the farmer and then pass it on to the government. जो हेडमैन होता था, लोकल हेडमैन या लोकल चीफटन, तो एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव होगा. मैं सीधा वहां नहीं जा सकती जहाँ पे टैक्स देना है सरकार को, तो मैं किसी को बीच में दे रही हूँ. वो एक बीच का के हेडमैन की तरह, एक एजेंट की तरह काम कर रहा है, इन अ वे यू कैन से. So the Mughals referred to all the intermediaries, including the local village headmen and powerful chieftains, as zamindars. तो जमींदार यहाँ पे एग्जैक्टली जो है लैंडलॉर्ड वाले लोग नहीं है, ठीक है. जमींदार का यहाँ पे क्या सिस्टम है? People who are working on these lands, the farmers, and producing something, all of them may not directly pay the tax to the government, or the government may not directly take tax from them, but sometimes have a head of the village, a chief of the village, and that is why we are calling him zamindar, because he's kind of the head of all the land owners and all the land in a way from where the tax has to be collected. तो ऐसे इंसान को zamindar कहते थे. This term encompassed various levels of intermediaries responsible for tax collection. So ultimately in Mughal rule, if you are asked who were the zamindars, they were the intermediaries, which means the intermediate people, the people in the middle who would coordinate with the peasants and the government, collect the taxes from the peasants and give it to the government. इनको जमींदार्स कहते थे. यहाँ पे अलग अलग लेवल्स ऑफ जमीन इंटरमीडिएटरीज होते थे और इन सबका जो हेड होता था वो जमींदार कहलाता था. अकबर्स रेवेन्यू सिस्टम, जैसे हमने पढ़ा कि राजा तोदरमल जो हैं वो फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर बन गए थे. तो ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम व्हाट हैज हैपेंड ड्यूरिंग अकबर्स रूल, ठीक है, during Akbar's revenue rule and the revenue system, Todarmal conducted a survey from the year of 1570 to 1580 to determine tax rates based on crop yield prices and cultivated areas. तो आप देख रहे हो कि बड़े ध्यान से उन्होंने क्या किया है. A very detailed study he did. He did a survey. He tried to understand that before I impose a certain percent of tax on everyone, ठीक है. Ritika, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you're able to understand everything. Now, bache, when I am a minister, I can do two things. I can either think, okay, not knowing the reality that people are earning good amount of money, they are having good produces. Overall, people would be getting, let's say, 50,000 rupees on an average. So I should charge 20% of tax and I should be expecting 10,000 rupees as tax collection. That's one way of presuming things. मान लेना कि ऐसा ही होता होगा और टैक्स लगा देना. This will now lead to problems on citizens level. ठीक है, बेसिक ग्रास रूट लेवल पे अब जो जनता है उनको दिक्कत हो रही होगी क्योंकि रियलिटी समझी नहीं गई है. The reality has not been understood and it has just been imposed like a general thing. एक जनरलाइज तरीके से जो है आपने सेम चीज सब पे अप्लाई कर दिया. Raja Todarmal, however, did not do this. What did he do? He did a proper survey and understanding. He collected data. जो डेटा आज के डेट में हम कलेक्ट करते हैं, दैट इज व्हाई रीन ऑफ अकबर हैज बीन टेकन एज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ सेटिंग द वाटर बेंचमार्क at so many levels, because everything was done so with such well detailing and information and calculation that it helped the people in general. उन्होंने क्या किया? He understood that different farmers, despite of producing same amount of crops or let's say grains or whatever produce they are having, they might be earning different amount of money. 100 kgs of rice will not be equal to the price that you will get by selling 100 kgs of apple. Apple बेचने वाले लोग ज़्यादा कमाएंगे, चावल बेचने वाले लोग थोड़ा कम कमाएंगे. So depending upon what you are producing, the amount of money that you are earning will be different. And these two people, if have to pay the same amount of tax, would be unfair. ठीक है, एक इंसान जो ज़्यादा कमा रहा है उसे ज़्यादा टैक्स देना चाहिए और जो कम कमा रहा है उसके ऊपर ज़्यादती नहीं करके उसे कम टैक्स देना चाहिए. So he did a proper survey that normally what is the amount of growth people have. ठीक है, उनकी prices क्या है, which means the earning that they have, what price are they selling their crops at. ठीक है, कितना area cultivate कर रहे हैं, because we know that there are farmers who have huge lands, बड़े एक एक एकड़ में दो दो एकड़ में farming कर रहे हैं, but there are also people who are doing farming on a very small piece of land. Now both of them, despite of producing the same thing, will have very very different amount of earnings. So he took everything into account, which now led to the new tax system known as Zabt, fixed taxes for each crop in cash. So what did he do? He did not have a uniform one shoe fits all system. ऐसा नहीं बोला कि एक ही जूता है सब पहनो, चाहे तुम्हारा पैर किसी भी साइज का. What he did was he said, okay, if you're growing a crop which pays you more, you pay this amount of tax. If you're growing a crop which pays you less, then you pay this amount of tax. तो crop क्या आप cultivate कर रहे हो उसके हिसाब से tax का system बना दिया, which was very very fair. So it established revenue circles with specific rates of different crops in each province. एरिया के हिसाब से हर जगह कौन क्या क्रॉप ग्रो कर रहा है, क्या रेट होगा, उसके हिसाब से नए टैक्स स्लैब्स बन गए थे. सो यू कैन सी व्हाट अ मॉडर्नाइज्ड modern method, sorry one second, modern method which is used in today's date somewhere of having tax slabs depending upon incomes and your background, etc. This modern method was implemented back at that time in the 16th century itself. Zabt was implemented in areas where the Mughal administration could survey and maintain accurate records, but not in provinces like Gujarat and Bengal. तो जहाँ नहीं पता है वहाँ पे नहीं किया. ठीक है, जिन एरियाज में सर्वे है, जहाँ पे आपके पास डेटा है, जहाँ पे आपके पास डिटेल्स है, वहाँ पे he would implement this, because again implementing this in the areas where you do not have the data of and you're not aware of what exactly is happening wouldn't be fair to the people. So in certain regions, zamindars held significant power within Mughal administrative framework, because they were the heads of the villages, they were the people collecting the taxes, so that naturally gave them a lot of power. उनको बहुत ज़्यादा पावर मिल जाती थी, बहुत ज़्यादा इज्जत मिलती थी, सारे गांव वालों को उनको टैक्स देना है तो उनको एक हक फील होता था, एक राइट फील होता था, पावर फील होता था. The exploitation of zamindars by Mughal officials might lead to their rebellion against the imperial authority. तो अगर कोई मिलिट्री वाला बंदा है जो आकर के फिर जमींदार से पैसे लेके जा रहा है, if they're trying to exploit the zamindar, trying to say that hey, collect more taxes, we need more taxes for the mansabdars, so the zamindars would not tolerate it. They would have a rebellion, they would raise their voices, they would have an uprising. Sometimes zamindars and peasants from same caste united to rebel against the Mughal regime. They would say that the whole system is unfair. जिस तरीके से आप कर रहे हो वो exploitation है, हमारे साथ जाती हो रही है, बुरा हो रहा है. Again you can see, especially मतलब अकबर के टाइम पे वैसे ज़्यादा नहीं होता था, but औरंगजेब के टाइम पे जैसे अगर हुआ तो zamindars and the peasants would rise up and say this is wrong, we are not going to tolerate this will not be taken. These peasant revolts, particularly from the late 17th century, posed a substantial challenge to the stability of the Mughal Empire. So what is happening? In simplest form, अगर हमें समझना है, peasants who are the citizens are not happy. Zamindars who are the head of the citizens of a particular area is supporting them. Both of them are raising their voices against the military who is the direct representation of the government. जो सीधा गवर्नमेंट का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है उसके सामने आवाज उठा रहे, कह रहे कि ये जाति नहीं चलेगी. But when people start rising against the government, though it is good, okay, it is good for the people, but what you have to understand is if the government is not taking measures to fix the problem, it becomes a threat to the government and the government will become unstable because people are not happy and they can go against the government at any point in time. तो मुगल रूल के अगेंस्ट ऐसे हालत में, especially during औरंगजेब्स टाइम, लोग कभी भी उनके अगेंस्ट जा सकते थे. ठीक है, तो अब इसी बात पे आपको बताना है हु वॉज अकबर्स रेवेन्यू मिनिस्टर, तोदरमल, बिरबल, शाहजहां या फिर औरंगजेब. दिया ने जवाब दे दिया है, रितिका आप भी दे दो. हु वॉज अकबर्स रेवेन्यू मिनिस्टर हु स्टार्टेड द सिस्टम ऑफ जब्त. ठीक है, जो प्रॉपर कैश क्रॉप्स के हिसाब से एक प्रॉपर सर्वे करके from 1570s to 1580s he designed a revenue system where the taxes were defined as per the cash crops, as per the crops being grown by particular peasants. Who was this person? And Ritika has also answered wonderful, it was Todarmal, है ना, जो हमारे राजपूत राजा तोदरमल थे, he was the revenue minister of Akbar. Now understanding about Akbarnama and N.A. Akbari, Akbar ordered Abul Fazl, a close friend. So he had a close friend called Abul Fazl. He told him, and he was also part of the court. So guys, we know that ministers, back at that time, the kings used to have set of ministers in the court, है ना. उनके कुछ मंत्रियां बैठे करते थे, राजा के साथ बैठक करते थे, मंत्री बैठते थे. तो उनमें से एक कोर्टियर थे और उनके बहुत अच्छे दोस्त भी थे अकबर के, to write the history of his reign. So he said that I have a certain way of ruling things. Why don't you maintain an account of it? आप इन सारी चीज़ों को नोट डाउन करो. आई वुड लाइक पीपल इन फ्यूचर टू नो अबाउट देयर हिस्ट्री, द हिस्ट्री दैट आई हैव क्रिएटेड. Somewhere he knew the mightiness that he had, right? So he compiled everything in 3-volume history known as Akbarnama. तो इन्होंने क्या किया, सारी चीजें जो अकबर का सिस्टम था, एवरीथिंग ही कंपाइल्ड इट ऑल टुगेदर एंड नेम्ड इट एज अकबरनामा. तो अकबरनामा क्या है? इट्स अ कंपाइलेशन इन 3 volumes in 3 sets of the whole reign and everything about Akbar by Abul Fazl, a close friend and courtier of Akbar. The first volume of Akbarnama focused on his ancestors, which talks about Akbar's history. Second talks about important details of the events and occurrences during Akbar's reign. What military campaigns he led, what important annexations and conquers he did, ठीक है, बड़ी बड़ी achievements, बड़े events, things that he fought. And the final one, which is your Aine Akbari, it delves into Akbar's administration, household, army, revenue system, and the geography of his empire. So 3 things. One talks about his past. Second talks about the fights and the struggles and the events and his achievements and his losses. The third one talks about that with his history and with all the achievements and everything that he did, how did he maintain everything with the structure, the system, the governance that he had, taxation system क्या था, कौन-कौन से लोग थे, क्या administration था, क्या ranking थी. ये सब ऐने अकबरी में हमें पता चलता है. It gives us a very, very detailed information of the rules, regulations, the tradition, the culture that his kingdom was following during Akbar's rule. So when you get to know that, okay, he was not, so guys, there's one thing very, very popular about Akbar. Normally क्या होता था कि if you would have, back at that time, most of the people were still Hindu followers in India. And when any foreign invasive ruler would come, especially one with a Islamic, one who would be an Islamic follower, would try to convert the people. But Akbar के बारे में कहा जाता है कि he did not try to do that. He was secular. He respected all of these things. In fact, he even said that tax should not be imposed in places of worship. कोई कई सारी चीज़ों में tax नहीं लेते थे जो religion से related था. तो ये सारी चीज़ों के बारे में आपको यहाँ पे बहुत डिटेल में पता चलता है. It is renowned for its rich statistical data covering various aspects such as crops, crop yields, prices, wages, revenues. So very, very detailed. It is like a Google sheet. Okay, a proper data oriented book where the statistics are very, very precise and very clearly mentioned, which gives you a very detailed information about everything that was happening during the Akbar's reign. Now, Noor Jahan's influence in Jahangir's court. So, we have understood what Aine Akbari and Akbarnama is. Akbarnama, which means Akbar ke naam ki kitab puri. ठीक है, all the details, 3 volumes. The third one is Aine Akbari, which talks about the administration revenue system, the whole detailed functioning and administration of Akbar. अब जहांगीर की बात करें अगर, तो मेहरुनिसा, who was later known as Noor Jahan, married Emperor Jahangir in 1611, the next descendant of Akbar. She displayed unwavering loyalty and support to the king, to the monarch, which is Jahangir. Jahangir honored her by striking silver coins that bore his titles on one side and the inscription struck in the name of Queen Begum Noor Jahan on the other side. So normally back at that time, queens did not have a lot of power. Okay, or they were not very actively associated in the ruling and the functioning, but the kind of influence she had, the kind of contribution she had, and the support she showed with the ruler Jahangir, he wanted to honor that. So the coins which were printed at that time, guys, I mean the coins which were actually produced at that time, जो currency use होती थी, उसमें normally you would have only the king's name, the reign, the name of the empire and stuff. But he wanted to honor Noor Jahan, who's Mehrunisa. Okay? He, on the other side, also mentioned her name, which said, in the name of Queen Begum. यानी कि उनके honor में भी ये coin जो है वो print वो निकाली गई है. Noor Jahan issued orders, फरमान in the court, signifying her influence and authority. So she used to give orders in the court, which usually was always done by the king. So that shows the amount of power that was invested in her by Jahangir and the influence that she had during his reign. The square seal accompanying the document referred to her as her most sublime and elevated majesty Noor Jahan Padshah Begum. So whenever a फरमान was released, जब भी कोई ऑर्डर फरमान जारी किया जाता था तो उस पर सील लगती थी. उस सील में ये लिखा हुआ था. Yes, Ritika, Akbar did make temples also. That's why we are saying that he was very secular, right? So all of that is actually written in Akbarnama and N.A. Akbari. तो जो सील लगती थी बच्चे, जहाँ पे normally the seal would only be talking about and be mentioning the kingdom and the king. Here it said her most sublime and elevated majesty Noor Jahan Padshah Begum, which means she has a certain responsibility, she was renowned, her presence, her influence, her power was acknowledged, which is a huge thing. It shows women empowerment that was done at that time, how the female got the power invested in her. The rounded seal praised her, saying, by the son of Shah Jahangir, she became as brilliant as the moon. May Noor Jahan Padshah be the lady of the age. Her presence in the court was marked by her significant influence and status as a powerful figure alongside the emperor. So she used to be there around with the emperor all the time, which shows her that how significantly and how importantly she was involved in all the processes and how she became a part of the reign in general. Okay. So let's quickly answer this question. The third volume of Akbarnama focused on Akbar's ancestors. Is this true or is this false? It's a pretty simple question and I see people have answered this. Guys, this is false. Third one spoke about the administration, right? It was the first volume that spoke about his ancestors. Now talking about Sulh Kul, it was a policy implemented by the Emperor Akbar as described by his son Jahangir. तो जहांगीर जी ने हमें इसके बारे में बताया है. ये एक पॉलिसी थी जो कि बेसिकली अकबर ने आपकी लाई थी, which aimed on promoting religious tolerance, जो हम अभी डिस्कस कर रहे थे, that how he was secular and respected all the other religion. So according to Jahangir, his approach was very simple. He clearly said that the idea just as divine compassion accommodates all classes, creed, the emperor dominion should also be inclusive of people from different religion and beliefs. So he's saying if God doesn't discriminate as a ruler, I should also not discriminate, and my people in the kingdom, whichever religion and belief system they come from, I will honor that. So under this policy, Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, they prayed together in the same mosque. Christian Jews shared single church for their worship. So basically, even under the same religion, a lot of times there are different strands of beliefs. He said, no, everyone is together. God is one. So secularism, tolerance towards different religions. He consistently followed the principle of universal peace. That is what means Sulh-e-Kul, which means have peace everywhere, which focused on harmony and acceptance of different religions. The Mughal Empire's administration and military power, so that was your universal peace. Now the Mughal Empire in the 17th century and after, so what happened after it? So administration or jo power thi bache, it naturally led to the growth of empire. They had extremely, they were very wealthy, but extreme poverty also existed, which was leading to great inequality. So where you would find great conquerors happening, conquests happening, people getting very rich, people having great rules and everything, but there were also extremely poor people sharing a very vast contrast. Very small number of high-ranking mansabdars received substantial portion of the empire revenue, which means very less of them used to get that. Emperors and mansabdars spent heavily benefiting artisans and peasantries, but leaving little for investments by producers. So artisans, handicrafts वाले जो craftsmen थे, इनको बहुत पैसे मिलते थे because people used to buy all the artworks and their works. But the other set of people, which is the agriculturalists, the producers, with the whole taxation system and everything, a lot of times they were left with very less. So it was creating again a gap, economical gap. So that was a problem. Wealthier peasants, artisans, merchants and bankers profited from the system. Lekin wealthy elite became powerful, creating dynasties and controlling the whole authority. But poor people did not always did that, right? And that also was a huge reason behind the decline. So the wealthy elite became powerful, creating dynasties and controlling regions as Mughal authority declined. By 18th century, Mughal province had asserted their independence while normally recognizing the Mughal emperor. So basically, people kept on becoming popular and more powerful, but the power of the emperor as the strong leader stopped coming in, that kept on declining, and that is how it came to the end of the Mughal dynasty. So quickly summarizing, we read that the Mughal Empire was economically prosperous due to the efficient administrative system. Mansabdari was the system of ranking. Mansabdars played a very important role in the system, but of course exploited resources, leaving little for the primary producer, the peasants. Substantial expenditure by the elite on salaries and goods benefited artisans, wealthier peasantry, bankers, leading to prosperity, but there was also a huge contrast. As the emperor's authority declined, these people, the elites and the powerful, grew more in power, performed regional dynasties, and they basically formed. So empire broke, and these people who were getting wealthier, they started forming small sections of societies and their own kingdoms. तो मुगल एम्पायर को टुकड़ों में तोड़ करके खुद का एक छोटा सा राज्य बना लिया, लाइक हैदराबाद एंड अवध. ठीक है, by the 18th century, Mughal provinces had consolidated their independent political identities while still normally recognizing the Mughal Empire, making a shift in the empire's political landscape. तो अब क्योंकि strong rulers नहीं आ रहे थे, ये छोटे छोटे जो लोग अब पावरफुल ग्रो कर गए थे, मनसबदार थे, कई बार रिच लोग थे, they created their own empire and stopped recognizing the Mughal Empire and identified themselves as a new kingdom. So guys, with that we have finished the Mughals of 16th and 17th century. In the next session, we are going to start a new chapter. So please make sure that you open the Embibe app or website, check out the upcoming session and get registered for that and not miss on it. Do not forget to check out the Embibe lens and make sure that you are connected with us on the Telegram channel. With this, I will wind up the session today. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys in the next session. Till then, have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys soon. Till the next time, stay tuned and keep imbibing.
Keep imbibing. We believe in you.